We have a great conversation for you today. We've got a guy that we both traveled with to Tanzania. He's a native Tanzanian. He's a pastor of pastors, trainer of leaders. He's actually trained and raised up pastors, sent them out to plant churches in the bush in rural Tanzania.
Yeah, that's right. He was actually a chemistry teacher and he became a pastor. We're talking about Pastor Williams Yindi. My name's Mike Tapia.
And I'm Cody Hall.
This is the Go and Send podcast. So Williams, it is so good to have you here with us, and really grateful for you taking some time to talk. Just one fascinating thing about your background, hearing that you were a chemistry teacher, but now you're leading this mission organization, Unreached People's Mission. You're a pastor. How did that happen? How did you go from chemistry teacher to stepping into ministry?
Yeah, it's true that I was a chemistry teacher in high school, and I taught chemistry for 3 years there, and the Lord opened the door, and very unbelievable. A lady came all the way from the States to join the teaching staff. She was teaching English. This lady was a Christian, the way I saw. She said, "Hey, why don't we, according to her, why don't we start a Bible study here every day before meal, before lunch?" Well, in the first place, I was a bit stiff-necked, rigid. I didn't agree with him. But at the end of the day, we agreed together as young people. We started a Bible study in a library.
Wow.
It's amazing. The Lord used this lady in a very unbelievable way. She started teaching the books in the Bible, and guess what? She planted a seed in my heart. It was a very divine seed.
Wow.
As the days passed by, a friend invited me to attend a gospel meeting. In my country, it is norm to conduct some gospel meetings, open air. Everyone is welcome to attend that one. And I attended the gospel meeting. When I was there at the gospel meeting, open air meeting, the message was so inspiring, very powerful.
Wow.
And the preacher made a very wise altar call. He said, "Hey, if anyone is here who feels this message belongs to him or to her, come forward as soon as possible." Guess what? I ran very quickly before the sinner's bench and I was prayed. When I received Jesus then, I was now a Christian with Christ. But before that, I was a Christian without Christ. As you know, it was known in many places. Well, my life changed right from that day. The way I dress, the way I speak, the way I walk, I was so much moved by the power from on high, my friends. Well, I kept on teaching chemistry there, but the calling was so inspiring. At the end of the day, I said, probably there's another calling. I have to resign from this very well-paying job and do something else. By that time, I was still single, so I had a long way to go. Well, while being a Christian by the time, elderly people started coming to my house. "Hey, Williams, you are now a man. You are a Christian. Now you have some qualifications to have a life partner. You are single." I said, "Yes, but I have to pray to seek his directions because I don't like to mess up, actually." They said, "Hey, yes, you are right. Very right, young man." I was young, 10, 9. I said, why? Sometimes God uses people, normal people, unbelievable. We tell you, you go 4 miles from here, you are going to meet a girl by the name Naomi. If you're going to ask her to marry you, we promise you, she's going to say yes. It was crazy.
See, that's interesting with that a lot of young people in missions are thinking about, maybe I'd kind of like a believing spouse, somebody I could marry, and here you go, you got that advice from somebody in your life as you went to ministry. But I just think it's really amazing too, even going back to here you were as a chemistry teacher and somebody, the way the Lord used somebody in that school to start a Bible study and just the fruit that came from that and that stirring up in your heart. That's and then this gospel presentation that he came to the Christ. I mean, wow, praise the Lord, Williams. That's
awesome.
Unbelievable.
amazing. It really is.
From there, I said, well, let me try. After some time, I decided to go. It was a 5 miles walk. I went there to the medical clinic. Well, like crazy, I said, hey, I'm looking for my sister here. She's working here as a nurse. They said, who is that? Her name is Naomi. Naomi, you're looking for your sister? She's right here. When I looked at her, she looked at me too. I said, okay, thank you. I said, hey, are you Naomi? She said, yes. I asked her a crazy question, guys. Hey, can you marry me? She said, no. That was great. So I said, thank you anyway.
So just a context of that too. So you were told by this man in your life you should be married,
Yeah.
and he tells you about this woman Naomi.
Yes.
Is that how that happened? And then you end up, wow, that's amazing. You went to go find her.
Well, it's a very interesting story. Well, after a week later, from afar, I saw Naomi coming to my house with their friends. There were 4 of them. I remember 4 of them. They were very happy. As they approached my home, her friend was so talkative. She said, hey, Williams, we have something good today. When they came to my home, okay, welcome. Okay, the lady said, Naomi, speak now. And I said, hey, Williams, I'm so sorry. I remember pretty well. Last week, at 4, you came to my house, to my home, to the hospital, and you asked me to marry you. And I said, no. I said, you said so. But I've come prayerfully to refrain my words. It was not right. It was so surprised me. So, but after prayer and being guided by my friends and other folks, you are my husband to be. Because I was troubled every time when I remembered what you told me. I told you what, welcome aboard. Because I was pretty sure that was the right person, the right time. Because I prayed. Well, just to cut my story, in my country, when you find someone to marry you, there are some processes to go. First, to find an elderly man, wise enough to be a middle person who is going to talk on your behalf to your wives-to-be, parents, and also to your parents. They can talk about dowry or bride price. So they did that. The plan was made. And the deal came that to pay 5 cows. 5 cows. My dad had 15. So he had to take 5 out of 15 for me.
Oh, wow.
So he paid the bride price and wedding was arranged. After 6 months, we were married.
Wow.
Praise the Lord. That was so cool. In continuing to that, I kept on teaching there. But the Lord used a way to make me dislike teaching. I had no happiness. Instead of teaching in a school, teaching chemistry, many times reading the Bible, very unhappy, I told my wife, I guess we have to find a place to work. Maybe find a Christian organization, something like that. Probably, who knows what. She said, yes. You see, my wife is so obedient to me. We agreed together. By that time, we had no children. It was easy to move from out to there. Then we had to resign from a teaching job as a chemistry. Chemistry is very well paying. Class subject. When you teach chemistry in developing country, it's very well paying. So it was a sacrificial kind of thing. Wow. Remember, my parents took me to school for 14 years, expect that I'm going to repay back their sacrifices that they made. Look here now, the guys resigned from this job. Well, it was risky. Well, we moved all the way from where we were working. We went about 300 miles north to find the organization, but then World Vision. It is a Christian organization, did a very good job. We applied for a job. They hired us. It was so good. We began working there in 1992.
Wow.
And now, what was your role with World Vision? Were you a project manager, that type of thing?
Very good job, very good question. Well, I was a project coordinator, coordinating between the organization and the donor and the sponsor, because the plan, the vision for World Vision was to sponsor poor people from the village, finding people who will be helping them with education and this and thing, something like that. So I was trying to take some photos and send to the sponsors, trying to see sponsorship program. So that I was a project coordinator. And I was very smart in take pictures and using and speaking English. I was the right person at the right time. Well, while working there, I worked there for 3 years clear. As the years passed by, again joy was being taken. I had no joy, no happiness at all. What's wrong with me? I want to take to the point where the calling for full-time missionaries, that how it came out. So I had no happiness. Not many times I was to talk to my wife. Hi, honey, look here. I'm not happy. We're well paid, good house, doing very good job. What's the matter with us? We have wronged somewhere, I guess. She said, we don't know. I said, I'm giving you a plan. I have to go away out for 5 days praying and fasting to ask the Lord about the 5 W's and H. Who, what, where, why, when, and how. What? My wife said, hey, go in peace. I said, thank you a million times, my flower. My wife is my flower.
Yeah.
I love my flower. So I went to the mountain. It was 6 miles walk from our house. I climbed the top prayer there. Well, guess what? I prayed, I cried, and I prayed. Asking God, give me the right thing to the right time. I want to be very focused. The first day, no answer. The second day, the same. The fourth day, I felt some very strong feeling. Something is coming. On the fourth day, I remember it was almost 2 o'clock p.m. The Lord spoke to me.
Wow.
He said, son, you have got to go. You are asking very foundational questions. You are going to do missions. And you are going where? The question is who? You are called, the obedient to the Great Commission. You are going to go. Okay, go. Go where? Right in the bush, where many people do not go. Doing what? Doing missions. How? Training native missionaries and sending them to plant churches where there's no church. How? Training. Okay. And the Lord actually gave me exactly the name of the organization and the scripture to walk along that. And the name was Unreached People's Missions. The gospel to every ethnic group. The gospel to every tribe. Finishing the task before Jesus comes. It was so powerful. So the scripture was 24:14 of Matthew. And this gospel of the kingdom will be for witness, and the end shall come. End quote. So it was so powerful. Another question, when God can I do this? The Lord said, now is a now season. You have to go. My goodness. That question was so strong. So everything was well planned. The major question was, how am I going to do this? Doing missions. I was so focused. The Lord said, you are going to start a training center. Training and sending kind of ministry. Preparing missionaries, native missionaries in academics, theology, and vocational skills. Cross-cultural ministries. They are going to cross-cultural. I said, thank you. I'll do that. I'll be very good. Well, in obeying to that, I went down the mountain and I told my wife, hey, honey, this is the thing. We have to resign and go. Where? Being missionaries now. No way. She smiled and said, we go. She said, why? She said, when Jesus says yes, nobody can say no. Because he said, I like that. Say it again. Honey, he said, let's go. I asked her, where do you get the money? She asked, where do you get the money? Because you need some money, of course. I said, I asked the Lord about this. And the Lord said, he kept it quiet. That means he's going to provide and supply your needs in the field, right in the field. My wife said, sounds good. We resigned from a well-paying job. We were given $200 to go with, off all the way, 300 miles inland to start Unreached People's Mission. Well-focused, because I was well-focused. No left or right, right there. We thank God at this point. He is blessing us a lot. We have trained and sent many native missionaries. They go and plant churches. At this point, there are 270 churches that are under us. A blessing ever.
Now, Mike and I have actually been there to serve with you a couple different years in the past 5 years, actually.
Right.
And the location where you're at, very strategic,
Yep.
because it's central to the country. And I know part of that is you're sending guys out, right,
Yep.
pastors and missionaries, but you're also bringing them in
Yep.
and training them.
Yep.
And you also do an annual pastoral
Meeting.
Exactly, an annual meeting. So could you talk a little about the maybe the annual meeting, maybe the pastoral training that you do?
Sure. Well, as we send these native missionaries to preach the gospel in the bush, they stay there for some time, maybe 6 months, and then in August or September, we invite all of them to come to the center located. Why? To be prayed for, to be blessed, and to be encouraged, because serving the Lord in the bush is very discouraging, and also to receive some more training about how to read the Bible properly. So we call them annually for particular, and hear the testimonies, because they bring with them some testimonies, how far they've gone, challenges. So it's a time for us to hear how far they've gone.
Wow, that's amazing. You know, when I think a little bit about your story, I mean, it's amazing the training you're doing, and we definitely want to hear more about that. But even just thinking about how you ended up in missions, and there's just like something that's convicted me too in your story. It's just your obedience and your willingness to go and spend time seeking the Lord. I mean, that's one thing that just strikes me about your story, that you decided, Lord, I need to seek you on this. I'm going to go up to this mountain. I've never thought about going up to the mountain and praying, but you had that conviction, like, I need to go and seek you, Lord, for 5 days.
Yep.
And I'm just going to go up there and pray and seek you.
Yep.
And it's amazing how the Lord, answers, right, when we're seeking him. He says, to seek him and go find him. And just your obedience in doing that, I think, is just kind of convicting. And I know ministry is not easy, and there's so many challenges that come up. And you
Sure.
even alluded to
Sure.
your parents, your parents putting you forward in 14 years of school, I think you
Right.
said, to be a chemistry
Yeah.
teacher, and then choosing to then go into missions in the bush. How was that difficult with your parents and that conversation saying that you were going to go into ministry? How did that go, if you remember in anything about that?
Thank you for asking that. Actually, it was a tug of war. Mind you, as I said in the beginning, if in Africa, in the developing countries, going to school is very sacrificial. Parents and other people have to pay a lot of money, selling their belongings, selling some cows, to take you to school. Not many go to school. Few are being selected to go. Why? You go to school, you are educated, you get a job, and then you repay the sacrifice by helping your parents with monetary area. So for me, being taken to school for 14 years, and now you say you are resigning and you now want to be a pastor, a preacher. In developing countries, a preacher is somebody overlooked. They said, "Hi, son, you have betrayed us. We've lost a lot here. We could have taken your young brothers to school, but we said you couldn't go. But now, I said, Daddy, is a calling. They don't know about calling. They said, hey, Ben, we are so sorry. We feel like you are lost now." It was a big talking to my parents. Wow. Because resignation kind of step, it was very, very discouraging for them. But it had been no way out. I was not able to change my mind, because otherwise, I don't know, maybe I could die, because it was so inspiring. The passion was so strong. yeah, I just walk like a crazy because of the calling. By the way, I did that. I did that, and I did that. But the Lord is good. As I resigned, the promise God said, He's going to bless me as I'm in the ministry. As I started preaching and praying for the people, some gave me some food, something clothes. The Lord was blessing me in a way unbelievable. So I'm so sorry because the time the Lord started blessing me, my daddy had already passed on. So he was not the eyewitness of what the Lord did for me. But my mom, praise report, she said, son, you were right.
Wow.
You were right. We see many people behind you, many people, some from other countries. We saw some coming to drill a well from you, for your people. So we are so sorry. We don't know. So I wish your dad could be here. That is it. It was so good. God can do the way we can't plan it.
That's, really, it's very difficult, and it's a real situation. I know probably many people face that when they're thinking about ministry. Different expectations of people in their lives, and making that decision is tough, but it's encouraging to see how the Lord has used you so powerfully too in Unreached People's mission, and just going into, I guess, some of the ways that you guys are equipping these pastors, and like Cody said, we were there at your facility.
Right.
What was even the story of getting to that facility? How did you end up, was it just like one pastor and you just took him under your wing and you trained him in your house, or did you always have that compound? How did you start, executing that ministry?
Carrying it out, yes.
Well, when Jesus says yes, nobody can say no. He opened the ways to do the way He wants. Well, when the training was now live, I mean, raising people to be pastors, being trained, there was some kind of needs. Pastors were lacking some stuff, so what to eat, where to go, whatever, fresh. But the Lord was providing for me because there are many. So some were raising chicken and bring to me some food and whatever. It was so good. So keeping them was so good. But the biggest challenge came alongside that for them, because when you send them to go to the villages, the biggest challenges is they preach very good, yes, they pray for the sick, yes, but the problem is, they walk a lot on foot, some miles. So when they come for annual conference, they say, Pastor, Brother Yindi, we walk on foot. What do we do now? I say, probably we can find a way to have a vehicle. They said, no. Vehicle, the roads are not very good and it's very difficult to maintain. Probably a motorcycle. They say, Bishop, Pastor, I'm a bishop, that is it's not going to work too. I said, probably a bicycle. He said, yes, a bicycle is easy to fix, very inexpensive. A bicycle in my country goes like $100 each. A bicycle is good, Pastor, because instead of walking 5 miles, a bicycle is very, very useful. That's it. I said, good. Now, let us trust the Lord for a bicycle for you guys. I said, what else? Said, Pastor, there's another thing we have noted. We preach the gospel, yes, we win many people, yes, but they ask us questions we can't answer. We don't have a book to prove that what we are speaking, a Bible. Going to preach without a Bible is crazy. People will not believe, will not understand what you are doing. You have to say, the Bible says. I'm reading from John 14, whatever, this and this. And said, they said, actually, Pastor, pray for a Bible. A Bible costs like $10 each. So I said, hey, we can trust the Lord for that, for a Bible, because it's a very important book, of course. We have to use, even myself, I have a, so that is the Bible. So the bicycle and the Bible became the best thing for a missionary. They say, hey, again, there's another thing which, maybe the one which is very important also. When we preach, and to be honest, when we preach, of course, you draw a crowd. Many people become Christians. The question they say, where are we to be gathering every Sunday to see some teachings, read the Bible? Well, sometimes they say, hey, we can begin with under the tree shade. Good. They started with that, but those are seasonal churches. During rainy season, no churches. It failed. Again, we said, okay, what do we do now? I said, hey, let's do one thing. Let's make a four-sided wall with adobe. Four-sided wall with adobe. And then put some heavy grass on top. It can last some time longer. Let us begin with that. Trust in the door the Lord is going to do. We did that. They did that. But as the days passed by, it couldn't work because some leakages, sometimes the insects eat, sometimes so it couldn't work. I said, hey, let us trust the Lord. We do a four-sided wall with adobe, plaster it very strongly, and trust the Lord for $700 for the roof, for the tin sheets. I said, good. Well, in that way, we found that equipping a pastor with $100 and then $100 for bicycle, $10 for Bible, and then $700 for roof. It becomes the basics for the missionary to be very effective. We call it BBR: bicycle, Bible, and a roof. That is it.
Yeah, BBR.
In that way, it has been a consistent church planting nationwide.
Yeah. That's amazing. And you said earlier, I believe, 270 churches. Is that right?
270. They went to 75 to 78. They fluctuate. Why?
Sure.
There's a very sad news I can tell you. I'm sorry for that. In my country, but probably global-wise, there is a movement known as prosperity gospel. Those folks are very dangerous, I tell you.
Yeah.
Because if they find a church, they come and try to reach the church to make the pastor quit. Hey, what are you doing here? You're so poor. You don't believe this. The Bible says. So they're trying to mislead. In that way, to be honest, I lost some of the churches. They grow and come. They go up. So that I lose some. But currently, at this point, I have 275 churches in session. And other 20 pastors already this time, they're in session. Probably when they finish their training, they can add more churches. So many times the churches are adding, very dynamic.
Sure, yeah. So in the time that I was there with you,
Yeah.
it was a running joke with me and my coworker because you were on the phone frequently.
Yeah.
You're getting phone calls from
Yeah.
pastors, and we would ask you, who was that? Well, it was a pastor
Yeah.
over in this other area, a couple hundred miles away from where we're at now.
Yeah.
Very busy. I mean, you're going a lot of different directions. You're pulled a lot of different directions. That's something that I'm understanding a little more now as I age, as I have a family and things, trying to balance the demands of ministry, of family, of extracurriculars. How do you balance things? How do you personally manage all of that? And it brings to mind actually one of the things the Apostle Paul wrote in 2 Corinthians 11, where he said, besides all of these struggles, in addition to all these struggles that he just described there, he says he has the anxiety on him of all the churches that he's planted. So how do you process that and work through that?
Well, thank you. In the first place, I was not balanced. My concentration was almost 90% on missions. And after prayer, the Lord spoke to me audibly from 1 Timothy 5:8. If you don't watch over your family, so biological family, you are compared like an infidel, like an unbeliever. So I became very balanced. Many times I take maybe 4 days concentrating ministry, and the remaining days very close to my family, my flower, and the kids. Sure. They feel that they are because that is my calling. Of course, I'm very responsible to be very close to my family. As you met me, sometime I was busy trying to coordinate with the pastors to hear their stories, whatever. So I used to receive many phone calls, but at that time I had some time also to designate for my family and for the ministry. And now another strategy that has come up is I've delegated people under me, people who are doing almost the same job as myself. I have switched the baton to other folks. I don't do much about myself. Like Moses. Moses was doing many things, but his father-in-law said, hey, guy, you'd be very careful. Designate other things to your associates and the remaining do it yourself. I'm doing likewise as a Bible-centric pastor. I do much for myself and do others of the family. I am very balanced. I do make many phone calls, preach a lot, but I'm very organized in my day-to-day life.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a big challenge for a lot of people. How do you balance? I mean, that's that's a challenge just in general careers. How do you
Yeah.
balance family and life and career? But in ministry and starting a ministry and having pastors call you, I can't imagine that. So that's really encouraging and fascinating too. That you felt that conviction, right? That you needed to be there with your family. And
Right.
thank you for sharing that. You had mentioned a little bit before, even about one of the big challenges in the country being the spread of the prosperity gospel, and this concept that, you know, God will grant you wealth and health if you give more to this pastor or this church, and I know that that's had a big effect on even the pastors that you're trying to train. Could you go a little bit more into that? Like, why did you feel that such a conviction to point that out as a challenge in the country, and how are you trying to address that with the pastors that are with you in Unreached People's Mission?
Sure, that's a great question. I put a curriculum in my teaching to bring attention to the pastors about that kind of movement. To be honest, that is very unbiblical. It's something from sources that are not godly, because we are not called in that way. I instruct to my brothers and sisters, excuse me, because in Bible school, both genders are there, that hey, preaching the gospel, putting concentration on the material need, trying to instill that kind of idea to people is quite unbiblical. Is like deceiving people to do that, because the way we've been taught from the Bible is to go straight, trusting the Lord is going to bless you in time. This is for Him, not like forcing it, using some manipulation, people do something. In my church, in some of my churches, one church member actually was very rich. Why? Because he was a retired doctor of medicine. So during his time, he bought a car and a very good house. Of course, the guys, the children, they were good. They were at a very good position. Here came a pastor who we call them the people who speak ill. He said, "Hey, the Lord is telling me." This is a very bad example. Anyway, the Lord is telling me, my brother, I know you have this and this, but the Lord says something to me. I'm a prophet. I know. I hear audibly what the Lord telling me. The Lord tells me, give me that car. It's going to be mine from today.
Wow.
And your house. And the Lord is going to open another door for you. If you can't do that, you're going to die. Wow. Hey, this church elder was not mature in the scripture. You guess what? He gave out the vehicle. He gave out the vehicle, and they started living a very desperate life. But if he was aware, he was good enough, he could say, no, if the Lord told you, he has to tell me too. But cut the story short, those are kind of movement, people trying to manipulate people and take some material stuff from them, or some promising of getting big things. God is going to give you this. Raise up your hand. You are going to receive some money today. Just now, wait. God is such kind of preachings are not very. They lead to a very wrong destiny. So I'm trying to rebuke that very strongly. I'm so thankful that my co-workers are very recipient. They say yes, it's true, and now we are excelling forward without that, trying to defeat about that movement, though I can't finish it because they are everywhere in my country.
Pastor Williams, it's clear you have the heart of a shepherd, and that you want to protect, right, the sheep from false doctrine, and that's admirable, and that's true. That's wonderful. At the same time, material needs are a big deal, the world over, obviously, and we read in James that true religion is to take care of widows and orphans. You started a school. And can you tell us a little about why you started the school and the ministry implications from that, especially for the children?
Wow, what a good question, my friend. Well, the calling I had was just like a mustard seed. It was focused only preaching preparing missionaries for cross-cultural ministries to go to the bush. This was it. But how the school came? Some years back, my country was hit by an epidemic known as HIV/AIDS. This killed thousands of people, elderly people. Guess what? They left behind young people, ages from 3 to 12, parentless, no hope, shabbily dressing, not enough to eat, not going to school. The future is not bright. Well, the government saw that. They gave them food, clothes, something to keep them moving. I said, this is very good. This is very good. Yes, I saw that. Very good. But the Lord told me, no. The government is giving them a fish, which is not very good. If you give someone a fish, how about tomorrow? He may come again. Because the idea was, when you give, no coming back. I said, God, what can I do? These orphans, most vulnerable children, what do I do? The Lord said, give them education. Start a school. If you educate a vulnerable child, poor of the poorest, an orphan, give education, guess what? You are giving a fishnet. In some years to come, he's going to be a very good fisher person, a fisherman. He goes to fish big fishes. Who knows? He may become a doctor or engineer or a pastor or whatever. There are some very promising ways in developing country to be educated. So, to be loyal to the Lord, I said, yes, Lord. When he says, go, I do. Whatever the Lord said. From nowhere, we started a school run from nursery to 7th grade. At this point, there are about 275% are orphans, and the 25 are just people who are paying little money to make the school move. We are enjoying the calling, and guess what? I didn't know why exactly. Again, there is a divine calling. That is a very good platform. Guess what? These students, they do many things, many Christian stuff. It is not optional. Going to school, you have to pray. If you want to eat, you have to pray. You want to bed, you want to pray. If you are sick, the first and foremost thing is to pray. So they're used in prayers. With that, I feel it is a platform. When they finish their 7th grade, most of them say, I want to be a Christian. I love the Lord. I see this God of Christian in deeds. It's a very good thing. So it's a good thing. The big challenge there is about teachers. Most of the teachers are volunteers. I've got some Kabula and other folks. I pay them $100 each, so there are 12 of them. 1,200 is big money. That's my prayer. May the Lord open that door, because they are doing a very good job. And the government, guess what? He said, yes, this guy is reaching out to the people in a way. He's helping the government, because the government is helping our people. So that's it. I think that's how the school came through the outbreak of HIV/AIDS that killed many.
Yeah, Williams, it's amazing hearing about that school and just your heart of desiring to holistically care for these orphans and realizing that they need an education as well, and that's a way for them to provide for themselves in the future. And I think that's really been something that's governed your thinking in Unreached People's Mission and experience being there. I noticed that you were also working on setting up a health clinic. You mind telling us a little bit about that side of your ministry?
Sure. That's another pillar again. Training pastors, students, now the third. My goodness. How this came up? Well, actually, to be honest, I'm a preacher. I preach the gospel very much. And I trust the Bible, what the Bible says. And the Lord using me in a very divine way. When I pray for the sick, they get healed. The demons run from the scriptures I speak. That has been a norm for me. I win many people for Christ. Now, it came a day, praying for the sick. Some are not healed, some are healed. My question comes, what's the matter here? Well, and the Lord said, hey, Williams, guess what? There are some illnesses do not need to be prayed for, to be honest. They need 100% medical attention. Then some treatment. Someone is sick, has to go to hospital. And that's where the Christian theologians use. They think you can pray for everything. No. There are some ways we pray for in some way to say, hey, this is my medical attention. From that, the Lord said, Williams, start a medical clinic here, where a pastor and a doctor will be communicating. Hey, pastor will say, hey, Dr. So-and-so, there's a client here. I guess this one needs medical attention. It does need to be prayed for. And a doctor may say, hey, Pastor so-and-so, praise the Lord. There's a client here. I guess he's demonized. He needs some prayer. So this kind of thing, it attracted my attention. I said, thank you, Jesus. So if Jesus says yes, nothing can be blocked. Like crazy, we started trusting the Lord to raise friends, of course, to be connected to this vision, grand vision. Well, it happened. Now we have a very good-looking medical clinic, very good-looking facility. It has brought respect to the village, to the community, to the country. And I remember saying that's good. The thing now we are still praying for earnestly is medical supplies. Medical supplies are very difficult to get in my country. Currently, we are working on shipping a sea container out of Charlottesville, Virginia, through Advancing Native Missions. They are trying to match fund to ship medical supplies to Tanzania. When that is being shipped, I tell you, the ministry will be bigger than now. So that's how the medical clinic came.
Wow.
And I'm trusting the Lord for people become as volunteer missionaries, do medicine. I have no idea about medicine, but the Lord is going to bring other people who will be doing missions. But I've received some applications of people who have been retired, they are medical professionals, but they're saying, hey, Williams, why this is not be finished? We can come and volunteer there. That's it.
So we've talked a little offline about how you're looking for staff to volunteer. So you're looking for doctors and nurses, of course, and even teachers, right, to staff, because you have two schools. You have the primary school, which would be like the equivalent of the States over here, like the elementary ages.
You are right.
And you have the secondary school.
Yeah.
So you need teachers, nurses, and doctors, right?
That is my prayer, because you cannot, in my country, we have a joke that you cannot skin the cat by yourself. It can scratch you. So skinning your cat needs some teamwork. My prayer is to have some teachers there. They can teach English, Swahili, English, mathematics. And in high school, there's chemistry, physics, biology, mathematics, integration with respect to S, differential calculus, something like that. So it's good to do something. You see, that's the full is a full dimension kind of ministry. Anyone who has a calling for missions, the door is there. Mission of the church is missions. So variety of open doors. So that's cool. The schools are there.
I really like your expression too. You can't skin a cat by yourself. You need partnership. And in our ministry at Sunset Solutions that me and Cody work at, we're all about partnerships with other mission organizations, and even how that relationship came to be with you, Williams, and Unreached People's Mission in a partnership. We were skinning a cat together, as you would say.
That's right.
And I know that early in that relationship, I think one of the first trips that took place with you was actually Cody, and I remember I don't remember all the details, Cody.
Yeah, me and David Palmer went over, a couple of engineers on the community development team. Yeah, we're focused on water.
Yeah.
All right. Could you tell us a little about that trip and how you hosted us so generously?
My goodness. Yeah, good. Yeah. Again, the idea came again about helping the pastors and the community at large. Water wells. Thank you, Cody, for that. In my country, especially in developing countries, people are dying on waterborne diseases a lot. Bilharzia, schistosomiosis, cholera, and other. They die. So putting a water well alongside the pastor's house to be used by the whole community, regardless of a religious background, that has been a backbone. Something which has made a huge difference in missions. Because if you do not be a missionary and then you go with the Bible by itself, you can't win. So the water well again has been a backbone. My brother Cord and his friend David, they teamed up some years back, and they did a very good job. And look here, Muslims are our friends. We invite them. They fetch some water for free. But before that, they used to go miles, 4 miles, 5 miles a day to fetch on the heads.
Wow.
The government is trying to help, but it could not work well. But with water wells, it has been a big help to a pastor also, because if a pastor in the bush, right in the bush, he has a water well there, very clean and much, a lot of much, streams or water. In that way, he can make some greens for the family, for the community, and you can use building, make some laundry. Great job. So the Lord, our God, added another pillar, drilling wells like crazy in many places to save people from dying and helping the pastor and people at large.
Sure. And that was quite a few years ago. And then really the more recent trip,
Yeah.
Mike, you went over, right, with coworker Brian Jackson. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a great time, Williams. I know that there is a lot on our schedule when we went down there to Tanzania, but
do.
You took us to some pretty remote locations and seeing these bush churches, as you would say.
That is.
And I know you went through and kind of picked those churches out, and what we were doing was putting in these solar
Solar
power
panel,
systems.
my goodness,
Yeah.
now you-
Like, how did you see that having impact, these solar panels having impact at these remote bush churches?
Man, that has made a huge difference, because those solar panels are really the best in the ministry in the bush, because we no electricity there. They just use candles and some lantern where light is not enough. So the coming of the solar panel project has made a huge difference in many areas. First, it is traditional in my country. People they love overnight prayers. Of course, that's very good because it brings dynamic church growth in 3 areas: numerical, geographical, and spiritual. So overnight prayer is very good. It was not very good till they received solar panel, because you cannot go to the church in the evening, the night, overnight, in the dark. So with the coming of solar panels, it has opened a door for many people. Some are Christians, some are not, coming for overnight prayer. With that, automatically the church grows numerically, geographically, and spiritually because of the light. Not only that, I've noted that the solar panel package has other things alongside that. It is a place to charge the phones, that's one. Guess what? The Wi-Fi, which is very important. And the Jesus film. Wow. So powerful. So with the lighting itself, the pastor has been able to read the Bible nicely without whatever hesitation. He's then very good, very well informed. Not only that, at home, because the solar panel has been extended to the pastor's home, the pastor's family, now in the light, not in the dark.
Wow.
Even the pastor's kids, PKs, both in school, not in school, they are very rejoiceful. Those in school, they say, this is it, because they can read nicely, they can study, every material. So lighting has been the foundational kind through solar panel. Guess what? In developing countries, especially below 23 degrees south of equator, the sun mostly is overhead. So the solar panel are well made to do that, and it's very inexpensive. So this is the lighting. Another thing now come about charging phones. Many people were not able to own phones because charging is very expensive. You can walk some miles, finding for some person who can charge for you, and you have to pay. Mm-hmm. So they said, this is crazy. With the solar panels, they can charge their phones right there. That's why you can see me communicating with the pastors in country, because they have the solar. The phones are very, very well charged. Not only that, we like music. Praising and worshiping, singing, and that's the norm. Very norm. We play. So without PA system, so with the coming of solar panels, many, even non-Christians, come to sing, they pray, they worship. At the end of the day, the pastor say, he made some water calls. So many people receive Jesus through praise and worship, through music system. It has been very, very good and very helpful. Not only that, nowadays many books are online. They are not written. They're just online. Pastors' kids were suffering a lot. No light, no Wi-Fi, so they were not able to access to internet to pull the books. Now they say, hey, this is a praise praise report. We are now doing good. Because many pastors, pastor kids, they are very rebellious because they don't know something in fruition. But with the coming on solar panels, that's it. I encourage brothers and sisters, wherever they are, to come up with that idea. It is very effective according to my experience, because I'm talking this through experience.
Yeah. It's so encouraging to hear that from
Yeah.
you, Williams. I'm my background. I'm an electrical engineer.
Yeah.
I'm not a pastor. I love the Lord. I wanted to use my skills in ministry, and it's so encouraging to hear how something that I can contribute in solar power, and our team here at Sunset Solutions, where a lot of technical engineers can contribute and help your amazing ministry and getting the gospel out there in those remote churches. One thing I remember on that trip, we were out there in one of these bush locations in northern Tanzania,
Right.
and you told me about a people group there.
Yep.
A very remote, difficult to reach people group, and I believe you called them the Hadzabe. Did I say it right, Williams?
Got you. Hadzabe.
Hadzabe.
Sabe.
Cool.
Could you
Got
tell me a little bit about
Cool.
the Hadzabe?
Wow. If you check on Joshua Project for the unreached people groups in Tanzania, the first Hadzabe. These are the people, they live in the bush, and they normally nomadic in nature, and they don't keep animals. They're the hunters. Such are the people who need the Lord anyway, because the differences we have, guys, in the skin and whatever, the blood is the same everywhere. So the Hadzabe people, they need Jesus. We normally go there to reach them, but in order to keep them at a place where they cannot move, they are nomadic in nature. If you put to the area something tangible, man, you can plant a church. Our prayer is to put something like a well right in the village, because when they see a well, they can do laundry, they can drink, they can feed the dogs, because they raise dogs a lot for hunting. So they can something like that with wells. They cannot die on drinking some water which is been contaminated by animals. Animals poop there. I don't know, something like that. So
Right.
it is so the Hadzabe other people, they did that one. And the solar panels, because if they can decide to stay in one location for a long time, they see something tangible, we can reach them with the gospel of Christ very easily, showing compassion and gives them some clothes, because mostly they dress on animal skins. So the Hadzabe is really a tribe that require special attention for missionaries, pastors, to bring them back to where they for their former destiny, where they're getting lost because of their ignorance, because they have never heard the right thing. I thank God, through my endeavor, I was able to win few. They say,
Wow.
That's it, because they can speak little Swahili. It was easy for me to communicate. With the Jesus film, when they can know by looking, that's very powerful too. So, to cut my story short, the idea of having a solar panel projector just to a simple home of Hadzabe, man, you can win in a very simple way those people. The thing is, when one is ready to come before Jesus, he is going to draw the whole group, because they are very obedient. Hadzabe.
Wow. And it just really struck me too when you were talking. I know I had tried to look up a little bit more when I came home from that trip in Tanzania, and I remember you telling me that their language is very difficult to speak. It's a language that
Clicking.
very few speak. Yeah. And
You can write that.
you can't write the
Clicking.
click. Can you say anything in their language?
Mike, you can't.
You can't say
Wow.
it. It's very
Wow.
You
difficult.
can't pronounce, but they communicate
Yeah.
with some subsign, but they do.
Yeah.
Aye,
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
that's good.
Wow.
So you've talked a little bit, Williams, about the pastors you're training, and you oversee a number of pastors
Right.
who also oversee other pastors. And you mentioned delegation earlier, right? You mentioned handing off work.
Got you.
Handing off work to folks under you who can carry the work on. What do you see as the future of Unreached People's Mission? What are you doing right now to prepare the ministry, right, for the next generation of ministry workers there in Tanzania?
I have a slogan that goes, Unreached People's Mission will never die. If it dies, we'll never rot. If it rot, we'll just keep on smelling pleasantly. That means since God qualifies people who, and he calls people and he qualifies the called. I like that. And he does call the qualified. I'm not qualified, but he qualified me. He has given me a strategy to think about the future, about tomorrow. What happens if the Lord takes me to heaven just today or tomorrow? What? The UPM is going to die. I was so much called in a way to act diligently, intelligently. I've been raising people who are very humble, obedient, to walk, to put on my shoes. I'm delegating many things to me. For instance, I have an associate pastor. There are 3, of course, they're under me. They are doing a very good job. They can do many things even during my absence as pastors. And at the Bible school, there are other people who are graduates from Bible colleges. They are doing the thing. They know they are doing the right thing. At school, the same. At the church, so to clarify that, there is a way I've made that I've delegated my efforts to the people under me. I'm not doing it myself, in obedience to what Moses was told by his father-in-law, to delegate many stuff to people so that I can be doing something by just overseeing it.
Wow. You know, you've had an amazing experience that the Lord has brought you through in your life, and the way that you've been used in ministry. You know, what would you say, like, if you think back to you years ago when you were a young man and you were thinking about going into ministry, and there's young men and women right now in positions like you, or maybe in other countries here in the U.S., and they're thinking about, Lord, am I to go into missions? Is this something that I should do? How would you advise a young person thinking about ministry?
Thank you. My role as a travel to different locations is to encourage young people to be missions-minded, going on missions. Because the concept of missions was mistaken in some areas. It was maybe going with the Bible. I'm trying to encourage these people to be missions-minded. Means you go with the skill what you have. So if, for instance, I said the Unreached People Mission is a full dimension kind of ministry where if you have a skill of being a teacher, you can come there. If you have you're in trades like carpentry or masonry or motor vehicle technician or sewing machines or building construction, there are variety of skills or trades you can do that. Doing missions in that way. If you want to be a teacher, you can do that. If you can be a pastor too, you can come and teach. There's even a Bible college, books from Genesis to Revelations. It's there. We can pick from what you can see and then you can do. You can help in many areas. Hang with you can be even in women, in empowering women in development. Encouraging them to do micro project so they can earn money from what they do instead of just hanging in other poor countries. They just come to a very certain moment, they sell their bodies to them, which is not very good, but giving something to do that is very powerful. So I'm open the door for people to come to missions minded, to be teachers. I have a high school too, which can teach chemistry, physics, biology, mathematics, whatever. So those international subjects. The Bible. The Bible is an international subject. So I open doors for people to come do missions rather than just taking on the Bible. Because in this world today, people love to see something tangible. If you go with the Bible alone, the reception is very poor. Go with something that is very touchy.
I love that you shared that, because that's a message that we're trying to get out there as well. Being technical folks, being engineers, technicians, we're trying to open people's eyes to the fact that their skills, whether technical, financial, medical, all these skills God can use on the mission field.
Yeah.
We're seeing it, of course, in our life here at Sunset Solutions, but You've shared several examples here of where folks can plug in with you with tangible skills.
Cool.
Ministry partnerships are important to Sunset Solutions, and I know they're important to Unreached People's mission as well.
Right.
You work closely with a ministry based here in the U.S.,
Yep.
Advancing Native Missions.
Right.
Isn't that right?
Right.
Is that somewhere folks could go to do some research, Advancing Native Missions website, to find out more about you?
Cool, they can do so because Advancing Missions, Advancing Native Missions, which is based in Charlottesville, Virginia, is a very important organization. Look, what it is a bridge between native pastors in the bush, and people in the development. They are connecting. They want to empower people right in the village, and be very effective in ministry. So whatever they have, because those people in the bush, they don't need a U.S. visa or language school or big money. So they cannot come here, but they can serve the Lord right there. So Advancing Missions is doing a very good job. We are welcome to do this, to be connected with them, to research on what they're doing, to get to know each other, because teamwork is very important.
Yes.
Teamwork is very important. Very important.
Wonderful.
Wow. So that's a good point, too, that people could learn even a little bit more about Unreached People's Mission and their support of you through Advancing Native Missions. And that's something that people could go and find out more. But Williams, this has been an amazing conversation.
Yes.
I'm so grateful for you and for you taking some time to talk with us. And just wanted to thank you and praying that you have safe trips back to Tanzania. And just appreciate you being here with us today. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.